Hi everyone, welcome along. It's the All Things TechIE podcast. It is Tuesday, the first day at ISE 2025. Am I awake? Hell no. Is Neville awake?
Well, it's my last ISE, so I better be. So.
You better be,
Yeah.
We were joking off camera. To give you a bit of background, we're here at Integrated Systems Europe, ISE 2025 in the FIRA. It's calm at the moment. It's 11 a.m. It's going to get very busy indeed. Nevil Bounds joins me. Nevil has been involved with Biamp for several years and several years in the industry. Did you say 46 years?
Yeah, 46 years. So I started in July 1978.
1978. So we're going to talk to Nev about like his time in the AV industry. As we all joke about Nev, you fall into the industry. So did you fall into the industry?
Absolutely. I think most people did. I don't think anyone I know, or hardly anyone I know, really set out to go into the AV industry. I started in broadcast, really. So I started back at ATV Studios, just to the northwest of London, being a tape operator on the Muppet Show with my, there.
That is a great story. How did you keep that secret all these years?
I know. So a 2-inch 24-track machine. So back in the days, that's what we were using.
You weren't putting your hands in.
No. I was very much, But what it did demonstrate to me though, was that working as part of production crew really interested me. Now, unfortunately, a year later, they stopped running the bus from where I lived to the studios.
Were you at that stage? We have to, of course, Nev is retiring. This is the big key thing after 46 years. So what age were you when you were?
So I was 16.
Wow.
So I couldn't even drive at that point, obviously. So when I left at 17, I worked for a company called Hammonds in Watford. And they were one of the first people to get involved with what I would call commercial and industrial video, using 3/4-inch low band and then high band pneumatic tapes, that kind of thing, for the military and commercial situations. This is before really higher education got going properly as well. But it was a fascinating time because it really gave you the chance to have hands-on with the kit. Now, today, as much as I've enjoyed my time at Biamp, for example, I don't get to play with kit as much as I used to.
Of course, you do your own podcast in aviation.
Yeah.
So, where did the aviation ends of things come into your whole idea of working with the Muppets, working with video, working with broadcast over in the side years?
There are so many questions and very few
that was a lot of questions in the space of 20 seconds there.
I suppose when I was about, 12 or 13, my first ever flight on any aircraft was on Concorde.
Wow, that would be mad.
And my father knew someone that worked at British Airways Engineering, and they arranged a trip for me and 45 other people to go around the Bay of Biscay and back to Heathrow. So
you fell in love.
So that was the point. And my parents were always interested in aviation anyway. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I got involved with the Plane Talking UK podcast, and we've just finished episode 536, I think.
Wow.
So it's been going along
a bit more than the All Things TechIE podcast.
Well, its journey, isn't it? So we get the chance to interview crews, we do air shows and this kind of stuff. So it's a great thing to do outside of work, but still being involved with professional audio and video.
So on the video end of things and broadcast, when was it that? Well, you say that the bus didn't run anymore from the Muppets.
Yeah, well, if you can imagine, if you look at television production today, about how many people are in the gallery compared to how many people used to be in the gallery, and with in the way that we work on the podcast, we use a product called vMix, which is just an unbelievable piece of kit, and it means that you can do everything as a single person operator. So that kind of technology has enabled these sorts of things to work really well. Now, you've still got to have good content, you've still got to have good lighting, good mics, all that stuff. But in terms of the production values, I think we can do stuff a lot easier now compared to before.
And that's it. Here we are in AV on the Air, Midwich booth. Fantastic, thanks for their hospitality today. But I have to ask you, over that 46 years, what has been the one thing that you've gone, this has changed completely in the AV industry?
I think if you had to...
or even their top three.
Pin me down to one thing, I would say it's equipment reliability and the miniaturization of it. Those are the two things that I've seen that just made everybody's life a lot easier. And I think that if you've got that, then that's a long way to making the whole thing, really joined up. Back in the day we were using things which consumed a lot of power, and as you know, there's a big focus on environmental issues at the moment. We've got a 50-page document on the Biamp website all about sustainability.
Right.
And it's the number one question that people ask these days.
Yeah, and with that in mind, your kid at home then for your podcasting and stuff like that. What would you aim towards?
It's a very...
Or do you do video as well?
I mean, I'm sort of self-taught on Final Cut Pro. Now,
yes.
One of the things that I'm definitely going to do is go on a Final Cut Pro course when I retire, because although I could hack away at it, I'm sure I'm not doing it in the optimal way.
And you know what? Like, I remember back... This show is not about me, it's about Nev. I remember back in the days where... You're talking about tape and cutting and splicing and putting it together again, and that's where we learned in college, how to do these type of things, both that with video and audio, and then the old fashion of Final Cut with the old banks of 100 channels going down the list, and then you're making a documentary for college, like, why is there a piece of audio playing here? Where is that piece of audio playing?
And I think if you look at digital audio and video systems, what I would call non-destructive editing, which is what tape was effectively, that's a massive leap forward. And I've actually got a very simple setup at home. I've got a Rode microphone, I've got a Focusrite USB interface, a 27-inch iMac, and I use a small Soundcraft just for some extra sends and auxiliaries, and that's it.
And that's a beauty thing, but with Final Cut, as you mentioned, and learning it, I remember getting retrained when I entered the higher ed AV end of things, and using the old version of Final Cut 7 and now Final Cut 10 or 11, whatever it's on now, answers on a postcard, please, and you just right click, and it does it for you. It has now transcription built in, and these are the things that, as you say, has changed the industry, that there's less and less people that's needed in the gallery.
And if you think about bands, for example, making their own music, they're not hiring expensive studios to do this stuff. A lot of it is done at home with Pro Tools and this kind of thing. What has not changed, though, is that when I'm in my studio at home editing on Final Cut Pro or Logic or whatever I'm doing, time seems to elapse for it. It's like a time machine, my studio.
Oh,
you go in.
Who are you telling?
And my wife Sue says, "Will you be long? It's dinner's ready in half an hour." I go, "Oh yeah, I'll only be another 10 minutes." That 10 minutes is always an hour and a half.
It is. It is, and that's not us procrastinating at our computer.
No.
You can lose time and track of time. Like my wife, Mrs. Dawson, was probably listening to this afterwards. Will say that the exact same thing. It's like, where have you been? The kids, like we said, we were going to feed the kids and get them to bed.
Yeah.
On that note, right? You did tell me off mic last week that you're a grandparent to two kids.
Yes.
Two grandchildren.
Yeah. So we've got two boys.
So in retirement stages, how many times is the phone going to ring now?
Well, we will see. But it'll be very odd. We're recording this on the first day of ISC on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I'm finishing with Biamp on the Friday. So Monday I will not have to set my alarm clock, and it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for my son or my daughter to say, could you just pop round and have the kids for half a day or whatever it is. But it's something I'm really looking forward to doing, spending more time with them, more time with my wife. As you know, this business requires us to do a lot of travelling, and as much as I've enjoyed all of that, it'll be nice not having to set my alarm clock for a flight or
Well, you mentioned Phil is your replacement there for UK and Ireland for higher ed. You said Phil has been in higher ed for many years.
He has, and actually his knowledge of higher ed is fantastic. So Phil Stanley joined us at the start of last year. So he came into Biamp at the start of January, absolute, full on with ISE. So it was a baptism of fire for him. Yes. But the nice thing is we've had 12 months for me to hand over stuff to him.
So you're not expecting the phone calls of as well from...
I'm going to be handing in my company phone with the number, so I'm not expecting too many. And the nice thing is Phil knows what he's doing, so I've got no worries at all. And he's very well known in higher ed as well, of course.
You also mentioned that like Ireland's a love of yours. You want to tour around.
Yeah, as always with Ireland, I've been there so many times, but all I've ever seen is the airport, the hotel, the campus, and the office, and that's been about it. And considering it's not that far to go from Buckinghamshire in the UK to Ireland, and quite easy to take the car across as well, I'd like to do more travelling.
And with Biamp, you've probably been in the same situation. Here we are in Barcelona. And people say, "Did you enjoy Barcelona?" It's like, what do I see in Barcelona? Like if you're lucky enough, you get networking nights out, but you are entertaining clients and customers, so you don't really get to see the city. Is there any special place, apart from Ireland, is there any special place that you really want to tour with Mrs. Ned?
Yeah, Scandinavia is of great interest to me. I used to work in Sweden for many years when I worked for Dataton as well. So we're actually going to Helsinki for a few days at the end of February, and then we'll do some touring after that. But just going back to the question you asked me about what I think has changed.
Yes.
I think that the people have been really important, the networking, the connections, and it's really interesting. In our industry, even staunch competitors are really friendly as well, whether it's manufacturers or integrators or consultants. And there's very few people that I can say I don't get on with.
Well,
because,
even with that, and you're talking about the networking and, of course, HETMA and LTS&G and everything, like the higher ed vertical is growing, and I can say that because I work in higher ed. Have you seen much changes in your 5 or 6 years with Biamp in higher ed and what's been put into classrooms?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the biggest thing in 2020 was the pandemic.
Of course.
That changed everything in terms of remote learning or on-campus situations. And let's be honest, not many higher ed campuses were prepared for what happened.
None of them.
So everybody had to reinvent something.
You were lying if you said you were prepared.
Yeah, very quickly. Now, as it's turned out, here we are sort of 5 years on, and there's been a lot of changes. I mean, there's some hybrid learning, there's remote learning going on, but a lot of people want the students back on the campus.
And this is the problem. But, I've said this on other podcasts before, that you want to be back on campus, but we might not have COVID. We still have natural disasters that are like whether you're over in the States or whether you're here in Ireland, where we had a status red, literally a couple of days before you came over to Ireland. It's
a big moment, wasn't it?
Yeah. So with that in mind, you have to be prepared for it. Where do you see, or what technology? Now, we're trying to keep out of the word, listeners and viewers, of the word AI, but I've got to 15 minutes into the program and we've mentioned the word AI.
Yeah.
But do you think that's just the buzzword for this ISE, or what do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some, for example, Rashid and Joe, part of the EMT at Biamp. I mean, they are really into AI and ChatGPT and all that stuff in a big way. I am learning more about it, and there are definitely places for it. However, I think that the teaching and learning experiences that we all need on campus, you really can't get away from real people interaction. And I think the biggest problem back in 2020 with the remote learning situation, particularly for those academics that weren't experienced with this kind of stuff, was really difficult for them because they lost eye lines with their students and they weren't getting interactivity.
Yes.
5 years on, that's changed a lot. But I think it's, AI, can't replace everything. Let's be honest.
It can't replace everything. And, 46 years in the industry with broadcasting, some of the things that they're saying is AI is not really AI. I hate to break it to you, listeners and viewers, it's not really AI.
Yeah.
We're talking about editing software there earlier. Some people will use the words, we're using AI to do this.
Yeah, and actually, working in a production department as I did all those years ago, even today, you still need good room acoustics, you still need good lighting, good mics, good editing, grading, all that stuff.
But the point is, that I'm trying to make is, it was already there.
Yeah.
The software was already doing this. You're adding on the buzzword artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's not really AI. It's not learning. So it's in some cases with your cameras and stuff.
Yeah.
It is. auto transcription, it is. But some of the video editing software.
I mean, let's be honest, this stuff is impressive. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that it was quite difficult to do a good chroma key, for example, green screen stuff. I talk to people that shoot, documentaries and interviews for a living, and they go, oh yeah, we'll just light it in post. I'm going, wow, is that even a thing? So it's very interesting how that technology has been able to be utilised for what I would call production efficiency, really, and the quality you get from it is fantastic, of course.
I've asked you what the exciting things have been. Now, in your top three, Nev, of the things that you've seen over the 46 years of AV that haven't worked, and you went that you could have predicted wasn't going to work, or some of the ones that you thought that were going to work that didn't work.
I think the 3D
thing. Yes, we've
now, obviously 3D and high refresh rates work very well in the simulation world.
Yes.
And VR and that kind of stuff. So that worked, very, very well indeed. But of course, for the consumer, that didn't last very long at all.
No.
Did it?
No.
And things like mini-disc, which worked superbly in the broadcast world for playouts of jingles and stings, never really took off in the consumer world.
No, it didn't catch on with the consumer world. I remember going into golden discs and everything, and just seeing the whole album on mini-disc, going, it's like carrying around a box of floppy disks for a long time.
I would say, though, that of course, you can buy any display you like from Midwich or any vendor. You plug it in and you get a good picture.
Yes.
Audio is not like that at all.
And that is coming from two guys that's worked in broadcast and audio. And it's true. No matter where you go, whether it be higher ed, whether it be live events or whatever, people will pick up on the audio quicker than they will of a screen and an LED wall with one panel not working.
Also, you look at the production tools that people are using, the stuff that Blackmagic Design have done, that Roland have done, the all-in-one presenter and production boxes, the Rodecaster.
I know.
There's just so much stuff you can do now, isn't there?
Like that, I'm a Luddite. I love the whole idea that, using an analog desk, that when I seen the Rodecaster come out, I was like, I got to get one of these because it simplifies everything, and it's it goes back to what you said at the very beginning of this program. Space management. You don't want to have big, clunky things in your house or out in a client setting. And
I'm trying to persuade a lot of my clients that have got what I would call space management issues, either in their teaching and learning spaces or in the corporate and enterprise world, where they end up using the 14-person meeting room for a one-to-one HR session because it's a nice room.
Problem.
And that, although that might be nice for them, it mucks up the whole schedule and planning for everybody else. So that's why, when Biamp acquired Evoco a couple of years ago, and now we're working with a thing called Biamp Workplace, that's a really interesting
And this
tool
is a new tool that's come out this at IC.
That sort of thing. But it's quite interesting as well. I still go to corporate offices where they've got post-it notes on the glass on the office door to say, booked until 10 o'clock. I'm going, guys, I think you can do better than this.
And that's it. I think that's an important area for space management. I see it in higher education, where there's people walking around with clipboards ticking boxes of how many people are in rooms. Well, why can't we use the technology that we have? And, AI again, how many times will I say it in this podcast? To see how many people are in the rooms. That's it. Now, retirement. Again, we're going to go back to your retirement. While over in Ireland, I gifted some nice Guinness to you.
And very nice it was too. Thank you.
Went down a treat.
Yeah.
Was there any special retirement presents given by
Not yet,
No.
but I'm not expecting any either.
Okay,
I'm just
you're
going to
not.
do what I would call a nice sort of slow fade out during this week when I leave on Friday. But it will be different. There's no question
Yeah.
about it. My wife's been retired for a year now, so she's already, worked out what she wants to do. And
How long is that list?
well, that list is several pages of A4, I would imagine by
Yeah,
now. But no, I mean, I think at the end of the day, my last 5.5 years at Biamp have been fantastic, and I've got no complaints at all. They have been a superb employer and a great, industry manufacturer as well. So I've actually really enjoyed my time. It's been very hard work at times, but the enjoyment that I've had from it has been fantastic. But I am definitely looking forward to what I would call the next phase, whatever that is in retirement.
And this isn't an early retirement. This was a set planned. We talked about that. I can let them in on a secret now. We talked about this retirement a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, I've been planning it for probably 2 years. I'm 63 now, and to be fair to Biamp, they said, well, if you want to go on to 67, Nev, fill your boots. Yeah. I'm going, no, that's very kind of you to ask.
It's nice time now.
I'm going to finish now. Yeah, and also I think when I've still got reasonable health and what have you, and the grandkids are growing up, so I'd like to spend more time doing that. But I will be, even though I shan't be at events like this. I'll be keeping a good eye on LinkedIn and industry trends. It will never leave me. So
have a guess of how many trade shows or ISEs you have done.
Well, the answer is I've been to every single ISE since 2004 in Geneva, when there were 120 exhibitors and 3,500 visitors.
Right.
You could do that show in a day quite easily.
Yeah.
And look where it is now. It's just phenomenal that what Mike Blackman and the team have done, isn't it?
Yeah, we're expecting 80,000 people and ticket holders now. Whether we get the full 80, every year they're breaking numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that in mind, what are you going to miss the most?
It's going to be the people, no question about it. Going back to the networking thing, the relationships that I've built up over the years, and that's helped me for job changes and all sorts of things. They're very valuable. The soft skills that you need are really, really important. And I think the AV and the broadcast industry as well, but especially the AV industry, have got one of the best networks going in terms of how generous people are and how nice people are, I've got to say.
Are you going to miss the trade shows? Are you going to miss the...
Well, I always like, I'm saying I like doing trade shows. I always say that on day one. By about day 4, I'm ready to go home. But I do have to say that the Biamp carpet on our booth is still one of the best going. And that thick carpet is important at trade shows.
Has Mrs. Nev asked for this carpet?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, it's been a fascinating journey from when I started with 16mm projectors, 35mm Kodak carousel projectors, overhead projectors.
Are you going to buy yourself a little toy or any retirement present to Nev from Nev?
That's a good point, actually. I'll have to see what the pension's looking like. But I would like to get. I quite like what I would call traditional audio solutions. And it was only quite recently that I sold my Tascam 38 half-inch 8-track reel-to-reel machine in my studio. So
why didn't you hold on to that? Like you could set up your own little business of converting tapes.
The thing is that I quite like the analog tape sound. It is fantastic. There's a nice sort of tape saturation sound that you can't really get.
And that's the
digital,
question. Despite seeing so many years, you can't beat the Roar.
No, although I'm sure Logic and Pro Tools have plugins now for the the Revox B77 sound or whatever it is. But let's be honest, we couldn't do the stuff we do without the digital audio workstations and with the post-production tools for video that we've now got.
Yeah, so you might buy yourself some tech, is what you're.
I think I will, but that Final Cut Pro course I really need to go on because I don't think I'm doing the best job of
someone
management.
Whether it be Biamp or whether it be or AV Tweet people will fund Nev to go on one of these courses, or if Apple, if you're listening, he needs a course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And has Mrs. Nev got any wishes? I know you say holidays, but any and the list.
I think one of those things is, as much as I've enjoyed all those years of travelling, it does take it out of you, and it does take you away from your families.
Yes.
There's no two ways about that. And I think actually to spend more time with the family, which I know it sounds like I'm a politician speaking now, but that's actually really important.
Now let's go back to your aviation end of things. Would you think of picking up any skills there, or I know you said you've been in simulators.
Yeah, I mean,
have you ever thought of I would love to do a bit of flying in a small aircraft or anything like that?
Well, I mean, where I live in Buckinghamshire, so that's to the northwest of London in the UK, it is a very congested airspace and also very expensive as well. I think if I wanted to learn to fly seriously, I'd probably go to the US or to somewhere else where there's a lot more room and a lot more.
So in other words, wait till the grandchildren are a bit older.
But I'm doing some work for a couple of the commercial companies at the moment where they let me use their simulator. I'm doing some filming with them, so I've actually got more hours on an A320 simulator than I have on a small Cessna or a Piper.
So you probably could do it. The good thing to know is should a plane go down, Nev's got you covered.
Well, yeah.
Or are we at that stage?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think I'll put myself in that category. But again, the aviation industry has been a fascinating journey, considering we've only been flying really for just over 100 years, and look where we are now. So yeah.
Okay, final question, because we need to wrap things up. For people that are willing to and wanting to get into this industry, which we've already agreed that people fall into this industry, but what tips would you give?
I think the biggest issue that the industry faces is people like me and others leaving the business, and there's a massive knowledge leak that goes with that. I would say.
It's sort of a follow-on to a follow-on question. Do you fear that after your years with Biamp that you believe that you've handed over enough, that you're not and losing your skills and experience?
I think if I was to give advice to people coming into the industry or that want to come into the industry, speak to people like Avixa, speak to people like LTSMG, Hetmer, and SCOMS, because there's always a route in somewhere, and there's nothing better than speaking with people that have already been on that journey. But the industry generally needs new blood into it. And I remember many years ago, Peter Lloyd at AV magazine saying exactly that. That was 25 years ago. We were short of talent then, and we still need people in.
We're still, no matter what technology, what AI, I said that word again, that we have, you need the people, you need the knowledge, you need something to feed it, and you're going to be missed, Nev. We're not going to end on tears, but I really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks to Rashid, who couldn't be here today. I know Rashid wanted to wish you the best as well. I'm sure they're going to give you a damn good send-off now on Friday. I say it's going to be emotional.
Yeah, it will be, and I'd like to thank you as well, because we've been friends for a long time now, and I think that your enthusiasm for the things that you do again will help new people to come into the industry. Hopefully.
I hope so, and he's always welcome in Ireland. Especially when you start doing this road show. We'll try not to talk tech the whole time and just go, everything's fallen apart now since you've left. No, it hasn't. Phil's in good hands. That's all we have time for the All Things TechIE podcast here at the Midwich booth, AV on air. My thanks to Nev for joining us. Enjoy retirement.
Thank you.
It wasn't an episode of This Is Your Life. That's coming up in a different program. But Nev, thanks for watching. Thanks to the Midwich booth, my control assistant here in the corner, who we won't bring onto camera. But thank you, and we'll see you next time. Great. Thank you.
Well done.